couldn't work for another record sleeve design company. I couldn't work for another record company. I couldn't be an art director in a company other than this. I'd buy Cocteau Twins records, Colourbox records. I like the idea of having them in my house against the wall with my rendition, my visual rendition of that music inside of them. This is personal. It is as personal as that. It's not the only way. It's not a business.
Just how important do you think the label and the cover is as far as selling a record goes?
To physically selling it, it's important to a very small minority of people who aren't already aware of 23 Envelope and 4AD's work. It's vital to the people who are aware of their work, just because in the same way as we get immense satisfaction from improving, or all of us, each sleeve that is done, feeling that yes, that is going even further, or just different to previous sleeves. It's important that people who have associated 23 Envelope with 4AD, with certain groups, that they see this continuity, this progression going on, and that it is still so vastly different from the mainstream.
That the first impression of a band is going to be what they see of the sleeve, especially in the independent market. That maybe they've heard the record a couple of times on John Peel, and then the name or the image on the sleeve is the first sort of thing that they see of it.
This abstract formal approach is what is different to most contemporary record covers, I think. Partly because of the nature of photography and the nature of typography and design. They're much more literal. You know, a logo that says the Cocteau Twins, there's no doubt about what it says. It can be only really be interpreted one way, and most photographs are much more literal. They're quite abstract in the artist's intentions, but in their own nature they're much more literal. So we try to get around those things by producing images which are more, as I say, more abstract and more like the conditions of music, more formal and lyrical, and which have more of a kind of emotional content rather than an intellectual one.
23 Envelope that you like, that you feel comfortable with alongside your music?
It just sort of, well, Vaughan and Nigel just managed to reflect their sort of ideas and things visually a bit. It's much closer than anybody else could, I think.
Elizabeth, do you sort of have lengthy discussions over what the cover should be like? Do you have a lot of input, a lot of say on what goes on the cover of your own records?
We don't have big discussions, no. We just sort of, well, it's usually Robin will give them, he just needs to say one or two things to them.
Just give them guidelines, sort of try and sort of convey the mood. But I mean, they often sort of come to the same sort of thing themselves just by listening to music.
They actually, we send them tapes of the music as it's being made, so they actually experience that, and they like to hear the tapes, I think.
You've had one or two bad experiences with video, haven't you? You haven't been too pleased with one or two things that have been released. And I understand that
Just the one.
Just the one? What was that then?
The video for Perla Judok's Drops.
And why didn't you like it?
Oh, it was just horrible. It was... It was sort of a promo sort of thing. It was done in a hurry. It was tacky, sort of worthless.
It was everything it wasn't
waste
meant
of film.
Everything it wasn't meant to be.
I mean, we talked to the director, sort of. We couldn't actually tell him what we wanted it to be like, so we didn't have an idea, because we're not like that. So we said what we didn't want it to be like. It actually turned out all the things just like what we didn't want. But the next one that we did, we had a good idea ourselves what we wanted it to be like, and Vaughan and Nigel got involved as well, and it's come out much to our sort of satisfaction. It's good.
Is that something that will develop in the future? Because I know that they have big plans for video, don't they? Can you see yourselves maybe getting together in that field with them soon to work on other projects?
Yeah, I should think so.
Let's talk of a long video, maybe 45 minutes or something.
We want to make it different to your usual sort of music video, where it's just a compilation of promos straight after another thing. We want it to be a whole sort of thing in its own right.
There's plans to do a Cocteau Twins video stroke film that, not from a pop promotional angle, but there's something that's more of an extension of the sleeves that would take a situation where we've taken a still from and extend that, make that move. Something that you can watch while you're listening to the music, something you could watch while you're listening to the music 3 times and not just once. That doesn't give everything away first time.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have a bit more time to spend on shooting it as well, rather than a sort of 1-day, 2-day situation for pop promos. To get things really, you know, how we want them. And again, as I say, more of a direct relationship with the group, in that, so that we get more feedback from them, and it's more, you know, personal to them as well as to us.
I want to talk to you a bit. The first cover here. There's a tail of a fish in there, and you were saying, Robin, that you're not very keen on fish. Or this particular one, anyway.
Yeah, well, it's there.
Well, I mean, that's one of our problems that I think that sort of illustrates one of our main problems that we talked about. The whole idea, the initial idea, was to have, well, listening to the music and the sort of the textural feel to it, and sort of a mixture of colours and things. We decided to set up a situation in build our little aquarium and have a few colours floating into it, and have a single element underneath all those colours. Are you still listening? That was like a couple of fish. So we'd been away down to Battersea. Is it Battersea or Battersea? Park. To find a couple of fish to be swimming about underneath, you know, to add a little bit of interest. And come the day when everybody looked at the shots, the fish became secondary, or indeed not wanted. And it was just the colours that were wanted. And the fish that we'd found, the fish that we'd fished, didn't, well, they died, because, well, what we wanted was, the way we'd introduce the colour was through car spray paints.
We didn't like that too much.
It wasn't because of ecological aspects, was it? It was because of the nature of these fish.
These particular fish couldn't live in car spray paint. They had to have water.
They all went on the side. You know how fish do when they can't breathe through the gills and stuff. They all went on the side and sort of just floated off.
Can we talk about this one? I'll play that one this one.
All right.
Now that's much more like what this one should have been like.
And it was all from the same shoot.
Why did you say that, Robin?
Because that's more like what we talked about.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's wonderful. Look. Very good. This is very good.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you very much.
This is very good also.
This one, we wanted
they got it right by this time. The same
wanted the colours to kind of merge,
with the
you know.
songs on it. Very good.
Didn't we?
Right.
Wanted the colours to merge?
Yeah. We wanted the, you know, kind of receding feel to it. You know, with the little red flower dot in the centre. So it's kind of abstract, you know.
Obscure for obscure sake.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people might argue that, you know, it is very hard to analyse your own work. I mean, I know you must hate doing it, but a point that the colour folks were making was that, you know, it does tend to get a little bit over-pretentious and a bit too precious sometimes.
Yeah, they've been drinking a lot there.
Yeah. So what do you think sets apart a 23 envelope from your average, everyday record designer, Robin?
I think if you look at the product or whatever, with most record designers and sleeves and things, you can look at them and say, oh, looks sort of late 70s and everything. the 23 envelope things seem sort of timeless. You can't really tell where they're from or when they're from.
How do you react to people that maybe accuse you of being pretentious or precious about what you do? Because obviously you have to pay a lot of attention to detail. It's your job to. And yet, of course, that provokes quite strong criticisms often from people that maybe not always appreciate visual imagery, that, you know, you're being much too pretentious and precious about what you do.
I think there's quite a difference between the words pretentious and precious. The precious aspect is the kind of thing that Colourbox would criticise us for. They'd say we were too precious about our approach. But I think if you look at the finished sleeves, I don't think they appear, a lot of them appear particularly precious in terms of, to me, a preciousness implies some kind of more analytical, logical series of steps rather than a kind of intuitive, spontaneous approach. And I think
today trying to talk like the written word, and normally I laugh all the time, and I'm not as serious as this about things.
We're not really used to trying to verbalise what we do in images, really.
No.
Look, I can smile.